Hello everyone, my name's Aloubell and welcome to part 14 of Miraculous Bonds Beyond Fate, my Miraculous Ladybug AU with a different origin story and different other things too. If this video is your first exposure to Bonds Beyond Fate, then please check out the story from the beginning. Return for part 14 when you are ready. For everyone else, sit back, relax, hit that like button for the algorithm, subscribe for more reviews, rants, and rewrites, and if you want to support me even further, you can become a channel member by clicking the join button. Not only will you get cool perks, but you'll be helping me towards my dream of a creative career. A full-time job in this means more videos for all of you. No pressure though, I still like making videos regardless. Anyway, put the croissant emoji in the comments and enjoy Miraculous Bonds Beyond Fate Part 14. Last time on Bonds Beyond Fate, Marinette and her friends came up with a plan to cheer up Luca Coufon's little sister Julika that involved Marinette sneaking off into Switzerland while the rest of her crew remained in Paris enacting their own parts of the plan. Alia and Nino went to an amusement park and utilized Alia's Fox Miraculous to trick Marinette's parents into thinking they were all together in the same parent-approved spot. Meanwhile, Adrien remained in the city to patrol as Cat Noir. While the last part gave us pretty solid pictures of what Marinette, Alia, and Nino were doing, Cat's Day was a bit of a mystery. Until now. If you don't mind, Miss Narrator, I'll be taking over the story for this chapter. First person just seems more appropriate, you know? For all the folks listening, I promise the story will go back to its usual third-person point of view format for the next part. Well, let's get started. For those who don't know, my name is Adrien Agreste, and I have a pretty big secret. I'm a superhero named Cat Noir. Pretty cool, huh? No need for applause, but I appreciate the love. Life was always so drab and predictable before. Any vibrancy that existed in my life came from my family. My mom, my dad, Chloe, and even Natalie to some degree. After Mom died, my father basically shut me out of his life, and because of that, life started to lose its color. He said he cared, but rarely showed it. He hadn't looked me in the eye for the longest time or sat down to have substantial conversations with me. Sometimes it felt like he didn't think he had a son. I don't blame him for how he feels. I miss her too. So much. And I know his actions come from a place of pain and desperation. I know that because of what he's willing to do about what happened. Without boring you with the details, he basically became a supervillain named Hawkmoth in order to get my and Marinette's powers to resurrect my mother. And to add to things being even more messed up, Marinette and I would have to die in order for that to happen. Now I know what you're thinking. What kind of monster is my father that he'd try to kill his own son? Well, that would be messed up if he knew that I was Cat Noir. But he doesn't. Don't get me wrong, it's still messed up, but I can sleep a little better at night knowing he isn't consciously trying to kill me. I know, my standards are super low. It's all honestly the biggest mess to ever exist. I get total freedom as Cat Noir to do almost what I please, and I feel like anything is possible, but I wish it didn't come paired with my father being my worst enemy. It would be so easy to be depressed about it all, and I'd be lying if I said I was okay all the time. When left alone to my own thoughts, things could get pretty dark. Why wouldn't it when I've basically lost everything? Well, not everything. Amidst all of the grayscale confusion, I see my friends. Chloe may not be speaking to me right now, but she is the most consistent, vibrant color in my life. She's irreplaceable and a source of comfort. More recently, there's Alia and Nino. They're so much fun and they bring a unique, charismatic energy that just makes you want to hang out with them. And then there's Marinette, my ladybug. She's the most wonderful person to ever exist. She's brave, kind, loyal, smart, and absolutely beautiful in every sense of the word. I fell for her after our first mission as heroes. Of course, I didn't know she was Marinette at the time, but I knew I'd love whoever was behind the mask. To know that she would risk her own well-being just to comfort me for the sake of camaraderie by revealing her identity only confirms that she's the best person ever. Her reassurance gives me hope that things will ultimately be okay. I don't know what okay looks like in regards to my father, but thanks to her, thanks to all of them, I can take things one day at a time. And speaking of how amazing Marinette is, let me get you up to speed on our current situation. Marinette is on a train ride to Switzerland to cheer up the little sister of this guy she met the other day. Now, I could look too far into the fact that she's going astronomically out of her way to help the little sister of a guy she just met, which I could interpret as her trying to impress said guy, but I choose to believe that she's only doing this out of the kindness of her heart and would do so for anyone, which she totally would because she's nice like that, and from what I understand, she's also extra like that. I heard and saw her conviction when talking about the whole thing with us. She really feels like she wronged this girl, and she's putting so much time and energy into making things right. I feel so blessed and unworthy to have her as a friend. And so, I must do my best to keep up my side of the plan. I'll hang around Paris and do exactly what Cat does best. Save the day with the utmost amount of style. Marinette will be so totally impressed that she'll no doubt fall for me. Not that I'm doing this just to make her fall for me. It would just be a bonus, is all. I honestly do want that girl Julika to be happy too. After all, I know what it feels like to be alone, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. The more friends, the better. And I look forward to meeting her properly one day. Now, what to do for 12 hours? All of a sudden, I find myself in the streets of the city. The sky is an ominous purple, and for some reason, I'm all alone. Just then, I hear a faint scream. I run and leap towards the sound. It's Alia! She's face down on the ground, completely motionless. Alia! Just as I start to run to her, something appears out of the corner of my eye. Nino! Just as with Alia, he lies motionless. What happened to you guys? Say something! That was when I started to hear maniacal laughter. Looking up, there's immediately a large mass being thrown at me, and I instinctively catch it. Dragons. My eyes widen as I inspect a weakened Chloe. Chloe, why are you... Why didn't you save me? She weakly asked before her body went completely limp. By this point, I finally realized that tears were running past my cheeks and dizziness overwhelmed my senses. And then, there was another scream. Standing near the top of the Eiffel Tower was my father, Hawkmoth, choking Ladybug, who was struggling. She tried to kick and punch, but she couldn't reach her assailant. With his free hand, he took off her earrings and she de-transformed back into defenseless Marinette. Marinette! I growled. Father, don't do this! You don't have to do this! Right as I tried to move, I found that my body wouldn't budge. I was in someone's shadow. My mother's. Her body materialized behind me. Even though she was out of my line of sight, I somehow knew it was her who was there. It'll be all right, Adrien, she assured me. We'll be a family again soon. Unable to speak past distressed whispers, all I could muster was, Mom, please. My father then yelled out, Adrien, you don't give me enough credit. I would never harm this girl. Why would I when gravity can do it for me? Accidents happen all the time after all. My hands are clean. He then let Marinette go and she went hurtling towards her doom. I screamed, but no sound came out. The shadow before me lifted its arm and revealed a long dagger that went plunging into my back. And then I woke up, panting and totally freaked out. I was on a random rooftop on a beautiful day. I could hear the sounds of the city and absolutely no distress whatsoever. Just to be sure, I leaned over the side of the building and watched the people blissfully walk by and carry on in their schedules. Taking a deep breath, I sat back. Everyone's okay. Man, did I really fall asleep? I'm supposed to be on patrol. I checked the time. It's only been a couple hours since Marinette left for Switzerland. And here I am napping. I can't believe I actually gave in to the cat stereotype. I blame Plag for this. Alright, Cat Noir. Time to be productive. Gotta prove that I can do things without Ladybug calling the shots. For the next few hours, I went around Paris and helped out any civilians who needed my services.
Young man, would you be so kind as to help carry my groceries?
An old lady asked me. Sure. And so I helped her cross the street and get the groceries into her pantry and fridge. "Hey, Cat Noir, you're tough, right? Mind helping us move this furniture into the apartment complex?" some movers asked me. "Not a problem. Thank goodness the Miraculous gives me enhanced strength. Even then, furniture is still tough to move after so many trips. Still though, we rocked the job, obviously."
OMG, is that Cat Noir? Hey kitty, come take a picture with us,
called a cute group of teenage girls I didn't recognize. "Let's take some meow-tastic photos," I replied. When the photo op was done, I couldn't help but wonder if those photos could somehow end up on Alia's lady blog. I couldn't help but further wonder if Marinette would be jealous that I was surrounded by other women. She'd be like,
"Oh, Adrien, I never noticed how handsome you were. Seeing you with those girls made me realize that I want you all to myself."
"Never fear, my dear. I only have eyes for you. I was simply making my fans happy, but I remain loyal to my lady." I nodded in agreement with my imagined scenario and smiled to myself. After basking in my fantasy, I then shook my head rather aggressively. No, you're on duty. Gotta stay focused." After that, I helped some more people out, cleaning some stuff, using Cataclysm on some unwanted garbage, finding a lost child who wandered off, and, funnily enough, saving a cat from a tree. Saving several cats from several trees. Once things began to calm down, I went back to perching on a rooftop. So many things are going on today, and yet it feels so muted compared to everything my father tries to throw at us. Speaking of which, why hasn't he tried anything in the past few days? I'm not complaining, the extra sleep was nice, but I can't help but feel a tad nervous. I shook my head again. Best not to think about it right now. Easier said than done though, considering, when left with my own thoughts, I can't help but think about it. I want to search the city for his and Natalie's hideout, but I feel like we looked everywhere. I don't know if it's actually possible to check everywhere, but it is super overwhelming. I just want this whole cat and mouse thing to be over with already. I want things back to normal. Well, relatively normal anyway. I don't want to go back to how things were before, since I have new friends now. But I do want my father back. Could we even treat each other normally after this? Even if he doesn't find out that I'm Cat Noir, he still knows that I know he's Hawkmoth and has been causing Paris grief. Unless our memories get wiped, I don't see a comfortable conclusion to all of this. I clenched my fists. Stay positive, Adrien. Things will be fine. We'll worry about that when the time comes. For now, Marinette and the others need me to be at my best. My thoughts couldn't help but drift over to Master Fu, who is technically my grandfather. So yeah, apparently I have a grandfather now. I have no idea how to properly process that information. Do you know how awkward it is not only knowing that you had a secret grandfather and that said grandfather feels so responsible for my father going rogue? He probably knew I existed and never came to visit. Although I can 100% believe that that was Father's decision and not Master Fu's. Father's been keeping secrets from me my whole life. I'm not surprised in the least. As a Miraculous holder myself, I can kind of see why, but it still stings. The only reason I even met Master Fu was because of the Hawkmoth situation. What exactly am I supposed to say to him? Hey Master Fu, or Grandfather, or Grandfather Fu, you've missed a lot of my life. Should we talk about how everything went horribly wrong with my father? By the way, you're invited to my next birthday party. Let's make a family Christmas postcard while we're at it. I felt silly just thinking about that. He honestly seems like a very nice old man. You know, when he's not being stressed out and unreasonable. But I'm positive that he has a lot on his plate, and trying to bond with his grandson who is being hunted by his son is not at the top of his list right now. And that was when my stomach growled. I couldn't tell if I felt it more than I heard it or vice versa. At this point, I could practically smell those delectable pastries that Marinette brought along with her. They smelled so good and looked even better. Her dad must really be a genius baker to have such a sensation linger on even when his creations were miles away at this point. Or were they miles away? I sniffed the air. Wait, that's not just me remembering the smell. I actually smell it. Peeking over the edge of the roof, I had only just realized where I was, across the street from the boulangerie. My eyes lit up and I instantly got down from my perch and approached the shop. Pressing my face up against the glass, I marveled at the assortment of goods. It was every kind of sweets and bread you could ask for. My mouth was definitely watering. I sighed. Too bad I don't have any money on me as Cat Noir. And I can't turn back into Adrien because Marinette's parents would wonder why I'm not at the amusement park with them. Darn it, Adrien, why didn't you consider your food situation? As I wallowed in my own self-pity and hunger, I hadn't noticed that someone was standing at the counter. "Hey!" called out the man. As swiftly as he could, he joined me outside. It was Marinette's dad. "You're Cat Noir, aren't you?" Yeah, that's me. At your service, sir." I then immediately thought, this wasn't the confrontation I was expecting today, but thank you, magical cloaking. "You certainly are. My wife and I are big fans of you and your ladybug friend. You two are heroes." The man was so large, he towered over me by a good margin. He was larger than any natural person I've ever met. He looked like he could flip over a house if he put enough effort into it, but he had such a soft, sweet energy about him that he had virtually no intimidation factor, almost like a giant teddy bear. I grinned proudly and stood confidently. "Well, it's nice to meet you, sir. My friends and I are happy to serve. Oh, and we do have another hero on our team, Rena Rouge. She joined up with us recently. She deserves some credit too." "Oh wow, more and more heroes popping up. These are way more exciting times than anything I experienced in my youth. Still, you all are pretty young. Must be a lot carrying such a big load." I laughed nervously. "Nah, all in a day's work." I took a step back. "Well, duty calls and all that. I should get back to—" "Nonsense. You must be hungry, right?" I blinked in surprise. "You heard my stomach growling?" He chuckled. "Didn't need to. You left a pile of drool in front of my shop." I frantically looked over. "I did?" The man bursted out with a jolly laughter. "I like you, boy. You're funny." And then, without much warning, he lifted me up and placed me inside his bakery. "By the way, you can call me Tom." Marinette's mother then walked into the room.
What's all the commotion, dear?
He pointed to his wife. "And this is my wife, Sabine." Turning to her, he said, "Look, honey bun, it's the Cat Noir."
Oh my, it really is. How exciting.
She came over and shook my hand.
It's an honor to meet you.
Marinette's mom had the same sweet, inviting energy as her father. Looks-wise, she was the total opposite of her husband. She was short, even shorter than Marinette, but she had a smile that could light up a room. No wonder Marinette is so awesome. She was raised by such nice people. "Cat Noir here came in to get a snack," Mr. Tom told Miss Sabine. I shook my head. Wait, I don't have any money. I couldn't get a snack even if I wanted to."
"Nonsense," Miss Sabine said. "You and your friends risk your lives all the time to save Paris. I think you've earned yourself some free pastries. It's no trouble at all. In fact, it would be my pleasure to help fuel one of our city's heroes." I couldn't help but blush from all of the praise. "Really, you're too kind, but I don't want to abuse my authority like that. It would leave a bad taste in my mouth."
"But sweetie, it's really no trouble," she assured. "Besides, a growing boy such as yourself needs food. Speaking of which, do your parents even know what you all are doing?" Stepping away, I once again laughed uneasily. It's a bit complicated. Can't say too much though, secret identity and all that. I hope you understand." She gave me a worried expression. Mr. Tom then spoke up and said, "All right then, if you don't want the food for free, how about you help me make a batch of croissants? That way you earn it." "But I don't know how to bake." "You don't have to know. I'll show you the ropes." And without further discussion, he once again lifted me up as if I were a lampstand and walked me into the kitchen. "First, we prep," he announced. I guess we're actually doing this, I thought to myself. Mr. Tom first had us wash our hands, and then he put a chef's hat on my head. He told me exactly which ingredients to gather up, where to put them, and which bowls and such we needed.
Baking and, well, cooking of any kind is a super delicate process, he explained. It may not look like it, but there's a lot of chemistry and timing involved. And unlike when cooking more savory foods or things that don't require baking, you can't always have opportunities to taste test in the middle of the process. So, it's a lot of trial and error when you first get started. And after a while, it comes easy to you.
So I can't just throw everything into the mixer, then toss it in the oven and call it a day? I innocently asked. The man laughed again.
No, you can't.
Per his instructions, I cut up the butter in very specific sizes and placed them in the mixer. He placed a different kind of attachment to the part that spins. When I asked about it, he said that one was specifically for dough. I had no idea there were different attachments for different types of cooking. We then added in some of the ingredients, leaving others out, and allowed the mixer to do its thing. Man, it was so cool watching all of the different elements get mixed together like that to form something completely new. Not gonna lie, I kinda just wanted to watch it for a while and I'd be content. That is, until my stomach growled again. This growl was completely audible and I looked over at Mr. Tom, who had a huge smile. We both bursted out laughing. We went through the rest of the process of making the croissants, and just as he said, there were very specific steps to follow. There was no way I'd remember them if I were to do this on my own. When it came to the task that required me to handle the dough, well, in my hands, I didn't feel comfortable using my clawed gloves, so I just watched Mr. Tom handle those steps. It was like watching a master at work, a true artist. I had no idea that baking and cooking were basically art. He truly looked like he enjoyed what he was doing. It was something he got to do every single day, and he was having the time of his life. And you know what? It was super fun. Probably the most fun thing I've ever done other than Cat Noir stuff. After a while, the croissants were done and they smelled amazing. And before I knew it, Miss Sabine was resting a box in my hands, placing 5 large croissants within it. "You're sure you don't want more?" she asked me. "Nah, 1 for me and each of my friends should be enough," I told her. Regardless, she placed an extra one in, winked at me, and smiled. "Feel free to eat 2 of them then, so that you have enough strength to keep doing what you do." I returned the smile. "Thanks, Miss Sabine."
"You were such a great helper," Mr. Tom exclaimed. "Come back anytime if you want to bake anything else. I can always use an extra hand."
Without thinking about it, my smile widened and eyes brightened from the thought of coming back to make something else. "You can't ask that of him, dear," Miss Sabine said, a bit sternly but sympathetically. "He's a superhero after all. I'm sure he has other important things to do." She gave me a pat on the shoulder. "But if he or his friends are ever hungry, we've got you covered." "I'll make sure to relay the message to them. This is the best bakery in all of Paris after all," I exclaimed. Mr. Tom chuckled.
"You're such a capable young man that I wouldn't mind you meeting my little Marinette. I think she'd be quite fond of you."
My body went rigid, but I still cracked a smile. Marinette?
"Oh, did I forget to mention? I have a sweet, precious, adorable daughter around your age. Shame she's not around today. I'm sure she would have loved having you here."
"You don't say."
"In fact, I think you'd make an excellent boyfriend for her. I'd certainly feel better knowing she's safe with you."
My face instantly went red as my smile widened. "Tom, you can't just say statements like that out of nowhere. You'll embarrass the poor boy," Miss Sabine scolded.
But everyone loves Cat Noir. Marinette probably does too,"
her husband tried to justify. And I'll admit, hearing that felt pretty nice. I'm glad so many people have such a nice opinion about me. "Even so, I don't think Marinette would want you sizing up a boy she never met and setting them up together. Let Marinette's love life happen naturally, like ours did." Mr. Tom sighed and gave me a slight bow.
"My wife is right. Sorry about that. I just got a bit excited."
I shook my head and grinned at him. "No worries at all. I'm flattered, really." And in the deepest recesses of my mind, I thought, I wish I got this kind of glowing review to give to Marinette. If only she felt the same way about me that her parents do. Even though I'm Cat Noir now, hopefully this means they'll accept me in my civilian form as well. Could I be just as exceptional to them as Adrien?
Anyway, I've gotta go now. Duty calls. Give my best to your daughter. She sounds like a nice girl, so hopefully I'll meet her one day. And with that, I took the box of croissants and leapt away from the shop. Before too long, I heard my staff start to beep. I stopped in my tracks and held it up in front of me. The green cat paw on it was blinking. Upon clicking it, a screen popped up and I saw my beloved Ladybug. She told me she successfully made it into Switzerland. As far as I'm concerned, the hard part is already over. Of course, she still has to locate the target, but I'm sure that won't be as exhaustive as taking a 6-hour train ride. She's got this. I left out the fact that I spent time with her parents. Part of me couldn't help but wonder if she would find that weird. To be fair, it's not like I made the plan to go there. It kind of just happened. I just don't want that to come off as creepy. She already knows I have feelings for her, so I hope she doesn't interpret this in a weird way. Nah, I'm sure it'll be fine, but I'll withhold the info for when this whole mission is done. After our call ended, I contacted Rena Rouge. Apparently our miraculous devices can only communicate with one another when we're transformed. Her miraculous must have notified her of my call and she had to find an opportunity to transform. I told her about Marinette's progress and she was over the moon with how smoothly the plan was going. I was instructed to just keep doing what I was doing and to let her know either when Ladybug called again or if Hawkmoth was attacking. Once that communication ended, I once again found myself unsure of what to do. Wandering around, my body unconsciously brought me in front of Le Grand Prairie, Chloe's home, which also happened to be my momentary residence, as well as a hotel. Leave it to the bourgeois family to live in some place as glamorous as the highest-end hotel in Paris. Considering knowing Chloe my whole life, I was used to visiting this place, but I still haven't fully been able to call it home. I looked down at the box of goods I was holding, and then I glanced up to the top floor of the building. Contemplating my options, I took a deep breath and used my pole to launch myself several stories high before using my abilities to scale the walls. And before I knew it, I was on the balcony rooftop, perched on the railing, glancing down at Chloe, who was lying down sunbathing with her sunglasses over her eyes. She hadn't noticed me. I opened my mouth to speak, but I realized that I didn't know what to say. Oh, right. I'm Cat Noir right now, not Adrien. I could always de-transform, but I don't know if she'll even talk to me. The more I thought about it, the more I realized it's weird for a superhero to randomly show up to see her. Nevertheless, I'm curious. "Hey there," I called out. Chloe immediately yelped and scrambled a few feet away in fear.
Who is it? Who are you? Why are you here? Take my money, just don't hurt me.
Panting hard, she looked up at me. Finally having the time to process my presence, she brought her sunglasses away from her eyes and stared at me.
Wait. Oh my goodness. You're Cat Noir.
She jumped up to her feet as she practically had stars in her eyes. I saluted her. In the flesh.
Oh wow. And you're here. Wait, does that mean I'm in danger? Have I been akumatized?
No, nothing like that. Things are actually pretty peaceful. I got off of my perch and approached her.
Huh. Well, in that case, could it be that you're actually here to see me?
She leaned into me with a wide and expectant smile. Feeling a bit awkward, I held up the box. "Do you want a croissant?" She blinked in surprise.
What?
"A croissant, freshly baked."
You came to deliver me a croissant? Is that something superheroes do?
We do a ton of nice things for people. It's not always about fighting bad guys.
Aw, Cat Noir came to give me a gift. I must be so super important that he would think about me. But then, why wouldn't he when I'm the most desirable girl around that even superheroes swoon over me?
She reached into her pocket.
I've got to get a selfie with you.
Before I had the chance to say anything about that, she took out her phone, wrapped her arm around me, and snapped a photo of us together. She then stepped back and admired the photo with a huge, dreamy grin. I suddenly empathized with Alia and Nino when it came to Marinette's more exaggerated behaviors. I haven't had the years of exposure to Mari's shenanigans, but I've had my own version of it with Chloe. Maybe that's part of why I feel so comfortable with Marinette. In some weird, twisted way, she reminds me of Chloe. "So, do you want a croissant?" I asked her.
She continued to admire herself.
Oh, no thanks. I don't do carbs.
I probably knew that, but it was worth a shot. I see. No problem. I guess I'll just be on my way then. She shot her arm out at me as if reaching out.
No, wait. One carb every once in a while is fine.
I chuckled to myself. I also knew about her fear of missing out. She reached into the box and grabbed a croissant. Staring at it for a few seconds, she took a bite. I followed suit, finally allowing myself to eat. We sat down next to each other and ate. It was nice hearing happy eating sounds coming from Chloe. It was nice in general getting to be with her in a friendly atmosphere. I missed this. I wish this side of her right now wasn't reserved only for Cat Noir. We sat in comfortable silence.
It's so weird, she said. I feel like I've known you forever. I'm starstruck for sure, but not like with a regular celebrity. I wonder why.
Yeah, I getcha. So, how is your croissant?
I must admit, it tastes really good. I haven't had one in such a long time.
At this point, she only had a few bites left. I guess she was just as hungry as I was.
Where did you get these?
She asked. Oh, from the boulangerie, I blurted out. In a blink, she froze. I looked over to see what was wrong. Her hands trembled, face burning with anger. Without giving it another thought or word, she threw the rest of the pastry to the floor, stood up and stomped on it, grinding it with her foot.
Garbage,
she spoke in a chilling tone. That comment cut pretty deeply. Hey, why did you do that? A lot of work was put into those. Without looking back at me, she answered,
I don't associate with such an unworthy, awful place.
How could you say that? The people who work there are so nice, and even you were enjoying yourself.
Shut up,
she screeched. I was taken aback.
I warn you, Cat Noir, don't ever go back there again. An evil witch lives there, a pathetic, unattractive baker girl who takes and doesn't give anything back.
My body then moved on its own. Fueled by my own anger, I grabbed her by the shoulders and turned her around to face me. I growled at her. Don't you ever say anything like that about Marinette ever again. I shook her as my grip tightened. You have no idea. There was a gasp, and the red finally left from my vision. Chloe's big, bright blue eyes were staring at me in horror as she cried and trembled. A wave of guilt instantly flooded over me and I loosened my grip. It was only then I realized how tightly I was holding her there. Feeling my adrenaline die down, I couldn't help but rest my forehead on her shoulder. I'm so sorry. I don't know where that came from. Chloe must be so confused and scared. I feel the same way. It was a mistake for me to come here. She eventually stopped trembling and spoke in a quieter tone.
I know exactly where that came from. You're friends with her, aren't you?
Friends with who?
You're friends with that baker girl.
I made my fondness for Marinette a little too obvious there. Still, maybe I can clean this up. Regardless of the situation, I found the capacity to give a little smirk. Cat Noir is a friend to everyone.
Oh, save it. She shoved me away.
Giving her my pleading eyes, I didn't want another chasm between us. I couldn't lose her as Cat Noir as well.
Anyone who is friends with her can't be friends with me.
Sadness flashed in her eyes.
It's literally impossible.
She hugged herself.
I don't blame you for your little rage moment. It wasn't your fault. It was all hers.
What happened between you two? I asked. She didn't respond. Ordinarily, I would leave this alone and respect her boundaries, but it felt wrong to back off from this. My sister had a grudge against one of my best friends. I was caught in the middle and both have gotten hurt. I need info. Please, I really want to know. Maybe I can help.
You can't. Just go, she said in a dry tone.
Searching my mind for another option, I offered something to her. If you tell me, I'll give you a piggyback ride and carry you around the town. I'll show you what it feels like to jump up high, leap around, and feel free. What do you say? Chloe frowned at me, and then her eyes made their subtle, frantic movements as she was lost in thought. She then blinked hard and grit her teeth.
Follow me.
We left the balcony and went into her room. She went to a large bookshelf and scoured through it, trying to find something. Eventually, she found a thick, old photo album and pulled it out. Turning to a specific page, she showed me a few pictures. They showed a very, very young Chloe, maybe in preschool, playing and smiling with another little girl who looked awfully familiar. She wasn't wearing glasses as I was used to seeing her, but the resemblance was uncanny.
You see this? This is me, obviously. I'm the cute one there. But that girl next to me? Her name's Alia.
Alia? I couldn't help but shout out. I knew they looked similar, but I didn't think it was actually true. Chloe looked at me suspiciously. Alia! It's such a pretty name. I tried to fumble through. Never heard of it before, but it's definitely not as pretty as Chloe. Chloe is the nicer name. Yep. So, tell me what happened. Narrowing her eyes at me, she continued her explanation.
There's not much to say. Alia was my best friend up until that stupid loser Net moved to Paris. She stole my friend and didn't even care about how I felt.
Chloe turned the pages and eventually Alia wasn't present anymore. For a while there, it was only pictures of Chloe. It was so hard to believe. Chloe and Alia were friends. I'm sure it wasn't like that, I tried telling her. Marinette isn't the type to purposely leave someone in the dust.
Well, she did. Chloe slammed the book closed. And that's that. Well, there's more than that, technically, but that's how it started. Everything went wrong because of her. Throughout the years, just lather, rinse, repeat. I'm better than her in literally every single way. And yet it keeps happening.
But that can't be.
Look, I held up my end of the bargain. I told you what happened, so just drop it.
Okay. There were deeper issues here than I ever could have thought. I needed to bring this up with the others. Knowing Chloe, she wouldn't let all this go from just this one conversation. All right, thank you, I told her. I then gave her a smile. Are you ready for that piggyback ride now? With a pout, she turned away.
I'll have to take a rain check on that. I'm not feeling it anymore. I want you to go.
She walked over to the bed and lied down, still hugging the book, back facing towards me. I looked on at her, feeling her heart break. What a mess. And she didn't even have that group of fake friends to call and fall back on. I felt bad, but I couldn't let them take advantage of her and lie about caring about her. Even if they were still around, I don't think they would have given her the sympathy she actually needed. She was alone. Marinette and the others gave me the okay to invite her to our friend group, and naturally, Alia was the least in favor of it. But considering how Chloe still refuses to speak to me as Adrien, and knowing her disdain for the others, it probably wouldn't work. Without saying another word, I left her room, gathered the croissant box, and left the hotel altogether. As I was on my way, still contemplating things, my staff beeped once more. Putting on my best charming and enthusiastic expression, I met Ladybug's face with a smile. She reported that she met with Julika and delivered the goods. I knew she could do it. I'm glad everything went well with her. Our mission was almost a success. She just needed to get back safely, which she definitely would because she is Ladybug. After the call ended, I found a secure place and detransformed. Using my cell phone, I checked in with Alia and Nino, giving them the good news. Well, of course they were very happy to hear about the success. They were worried about why I was Adrien.
What if someone sees you? The plan was to stay as Cat Noir until we all met up again.
Alia told me. Trust me, I know. And I'm going to transform again in a minute. I just have to make a call to someone as Adrien. I promise I'll be careful. Catching the downcasted tone in my voice, Nino asked,
Hey dude, is everything alright?
I smiled at him. Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Adrien? I know it's not the ideal time, but we're here if you want to talk.
Alia told me.
Yeah, we'll definitely make the time.
These two are really nice. I couldn't help but think how different Chloe would be if she had grown up with them and been in their group. Alia, I stopped myself from talking. I wanted to ask again if she'd be willing to let Chloe join our group, or at the very least talk to her. What is it?
She asked. I went to the bakery and made croissants with Marinette's parents. She gasped loudly.
You what?
Nino bursted out laughing.
You look so serious there. I thought it was something way worse. Cat Noir in a bakery sounds hilarious. Please tell me you were at least Cat Noir.
Alia demanded. I rolled my eyes and sighed, ending in a smile. Yes, I was Cat Noir.
Still though, how does something like that even happen?
I'll tell you guys about it when we all meet up. I promise. And I held up the box. Free croissants for all of us. Alia grimaced. Nino, however, was more impressed.
Fortune has smiled on us. We gave pastries and pastries came back. I see this as an absolute win.
Alia groaned.
At least I know they're yummy.
She then chuckled.
I look forward to hearing the story, Agreste. Make your call and suit up again, you hear?
Yes, ma'am. And with that, the call ended. I was mentally kicking myself for being such a coward. It's just that, in my gut, I didn't feel like the timing was right. In any case, there was just one more thing left for me to do. Using my finger, I scrolled through the contacts on my phone. Once I found the number I wanted, I pressed the speed dial and held the device up to my ear. After a few rings and a mound of uncertainty, there was a voice on the other end.
What do you want?
Hey, Chloe.
That didn't answer my question.
I just wanted to hear your voice.
Well, you heard it. Are we done now?
Wait. Come on, Chloe, it's me. We've always been able to talk. How long is this going to last? She didn't say anything. Chloe.
You're out with the baker girl and her loser friends, aren't you?
I had to restrain myself from scolding her. Technically, I'm by myself right now.
Then, come and see me.
I clenched my fists. I can't.
Figures.
There's just something I have to do is all. I wish I could tell you about it. At that moment, I considered telling her that I was Cat Noir. I wanted to fill her in on the secret so that we could have that sense of camaraderie again. We'd have a secret, another thing to bond us. But it wasn't just my secret to give. Telling her only about me wouldn't make sense since I'd still be hanging out with the others more often than her in order to protect their secret, and thus she would eventually make the connection. And telling her about everyone without their permission would complicate things. They wouldn't want her to know, and I don't want them mad at me. Besides, she would be in danger with that knowledge. If my father ever found out, he'd never leave her alone. I couldn't do that to her. If there weren't the complication of us being superheroes, I could muster up what it takes to try to fix things between all of my friends. But as it stands, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's a secret right now, Chloe, but I promise that it won't be forever. I'll tell you one day. Again, there was silence. Just as I was about to speak, she said,
You better tell me one day, Adrikins. I'll hold you to that promise.
Then she hung up. There was a tiny glimmer of hope. At least, I think there was. I feel like she's still mad at me, but it felt a little better knowing she'll be willing to hear me out one day. Until then, I just gotta give it my all like the others are doing. Plag, claws out! In a flash of green, I transformed back into Cat Noir and continued my patrol. The rest of the day was history. After another 6 hours, I went to pick up Marinette at the train station, and even while she was exhausted, she looked as radiant as ever. We then met up with Alia and Nino at the amusement park. Totally tired from the day's events, but high off of our victory, we did a group pound it. Of course, Alia noticed the box of croissants and gave me a funny look. It was time to come clean about my bakery adventure. Leaving out the part about Marinette's dad trying to set me up with her, of course. But as for now, that's all there is. There isn't any more.